What's up, everybody? Today I just wanted to talk about my personal favorite games of 2023. This was a banger year for gaming, and as we all know, we don't exactly have the time for everything, and if we do, then we might just be an amazing person. I only got to play certain games this year, even though there were a ton of games I wanted to get to, and I just didn't for a variety of reasons. But I just wanted to talk about some of the games that I got to play through this year and kind of my general thoughts about them. Some of these are games I reviewed for my channel, and some of them are games that I really enjoyed, but I didn't really get a chance to talk about. And some of them are games I kind of had feelings for and I just didn't review. Anyway, let's jump into the video and see what some of my favorite games of 2023 were. Check it out. So of course, I have to talk about Armored Core 6. Armored Core is one of my personal favorite games in the gaming landscape, and it has been since I was a kid. It honestly fuses so many things I love about games all in one place. It's got really hardcore mech action, a variety of weapons and parts to make your own style of machine, a really interesting and intricate story, and more. It just really blew me away, and honestly I was worried that Armored Core 6 would change its formula to, let's say, better suit the modern gaming landscape, and in a lot of ways it did, but in a lot of ways it did it for the better. Armored Core has always been kind of overly obtuse for no real reason, and I think Armored Core 6 did a lot of small things to break through those barriers and really become a welcoming game for a lot of people. And honestly, Armored Core 6 was a lot of fun, and I'm really surprised. It was a really interesting story with, spoilers, aliens, which is something I didn't really see coming, and a lot of really unique and interesting parts to mix and match to make yourself one of your personal favorite machines that you can really put together and make a hodgepodge monster with. And not only that, it had a lot of that From Software initial difficulty, and I think a lot of people had to adjust to it, but once you do, you kind of realize, oh, Armored Core 6 is pretty manageable if you kind of approach it with an open mind. And I think a lot of people bounced off of it at first because things like the what is it, Balius or Batriel? Not Batriel. Batriel's from Final Fantasy 14. The Balius fight, maybe, I think is what it was called. The first major boss in the game was really difficult for a lot of people. But Armored Core 6 was just hit in a lot of right ways for me. And while I do kind of decry it a little bit for toning down the item count for the weapons and the parts for the machines and whatnot, I don't think it was the wrong choice either. And it kind of just gives me more hope and more anticipation for Armored Core 7 or an Armored Core 6 follow-up. I don't know if they'll do that. From Software has traditionally done a secondary update or follow-up to the base games, or sometimes several, for the Armored Core series, and they tend to do that for their Soulsborne series as well. So we might see that for Armored Core 6 maybe next year or something like that, but I would put more money on the fact that they might do an Armored Core 7 instead. That said, we did just get a new update for Armored Core 6, which has a couple of new parts, new weapons, and no new story missions, but it does have ranked mode and whatnot for people who are still enjoying the game. Anyway, Armored Core 6 was a beautiful, awesome game, and I hope we see more Armored Core in the future. From Software, don't leave us hanging. Give us Bloodborne 2 and Armored Core 7, please. Next is a game that I'm surprised I'm going to talk about, but it's something that I think I should talk about. It's going to be Honkai Star Rail. Honkai Star Rail is another MiHoYo-versed game. It is their latest one, and surprisingly it came out this year. I don't know why I thought it came out the year before, but it came out this year. This is their take on a traditional turn-based RPG, but also with the mobile gacha MiHoYo style of recruiting new characters and bringing them into your party and progressing through a persistent story and world. I actually kind of enjoy but also kind of hate this game. And it might not be for the reasons you think. I think the gameplay in Honkai Star Rail is top notch. We don't get many turn-based RPGs these days, especially not many with these big budget AAA style cutscenes and characters and crazy combat animations and whatnot. But the combat here is just so well refined and well thought out that it's just a really good RPG. And that, like, my main problems with Honkai Star Rail aren't the RPG elements. It's not even the gacha system in it, really, but it's the dialogue. Honkai Star Rail is a very wordy game. This game loves to talk. And not just the cutscenes. This is, every time I get into a story moment or a side quest, I'm just clicking, or tapping, because I was playing this on mobile, and then I switched to PC because it's better. And this game just loves to talk. It loves to talk to the player. It loves to give really long explanations for everything. It is a good game generally. Genuinely speaking, I think every aspect of this game is very good. The graphics are good. The story is actually quite interesting. The characters are cool. Even though I do think they're generic cool characters, like MiHoYo does not take chances with their character designs. They know what works. They know what's going to get people to have interest, and they know what's going to get people to pay money to try and get these new characters. And that's kind of one of my two big problems with this game and their other games. But like I said, the story in the game is fine, but oh boy, there's a lot of text. This game loves to smell its own farts, kind of, with its dialogue. I always enjoy playing this game because, like I said, the RPG elements in the world is very cool and very well done. But when you have to do a side quest, or you want to do a side quest, and it's just this massive load of dialogue just getting dumped all over you, just like, please move on with the point. I get it. It's just like, I get it. And the side quests aren't that interesting, but you want to do them because they all build up to you getting your next character for free and whatnot, and doing your daily quests. But the other thing is, like I said, the character designs in MiHoYo games are very safe. They don't take chances. They're not going to put and this is going to be controversial, they're not going to put a black male character in their games. I know that. They're not going to put like a big buff dude in their character. I know that. They're not going to put like very interesting, very unique renditions of their own ideas in these games. Every time they're going to pick the skinny boy, very ikemen character with long flowing hair and the pointy chin. Like, that's the character they're going to go for every time. They're going to go for these very cutesy, elegant female characters who are very elaborately dressed, but also very sexy and cute and cool. And like, their character designs are good, but they're generic. Like, you know exactly what kind of character you're going to get every few months, every time they drop new characters in this game. And with their other games too, not Honkai, their other game that I'm forgetting the name of at the moment. Anyway, Genshin Impact, that's the one. But once again, just like Genshin Impact, just like Honkai Third Impact, and just like Honkai Star Rail, MiHoYo has a very good team that knows how to make game design, and I think that is what is highlighted once again here. And even if their ideas aren't completely original in terms of like the types of game that they decide to make, that doesn't matter when their rendition of it is so high quality and so good. And once again, while the general story is good, it's overly worded and blah blah blah. I think if you haven't played Honkai Star Rail and you're into turn-based RPGs, you are missing out if you haven't tried it. Resident Evil 4 was easily one of the best games, and honestly, it might be the best game I played of 2023. I knew I would love Resident Evil 4 because I'm a Resident Evil fan. It is indeed my favorite franchise series, but when you try to remake your best game of all time, you might actually fail at that. And I think that's what a lot of people were concerned with Resident Evil 4's remake. There's so much weird silliness in Resident Evil 4's original game that there just couldn't be any chance that Capcom could remake this game with its more modern iterations and look, while also being just as silly and just as fun. And they somehow did it. They made Resident Evil 4 even better than it was before, and I think that's insane to me. Resident Evil 4 isn't just another remake. It really shows how good Capcom's just game design, creature design, characters, and more is. And it really does show like that Capcom is godlike when they really put their foot in it, and that's exactly what they did with Resident Evil 4's remake. It's not only a beautiful game visually, but its controls are perfect. Its various mechanics to get you through the game are insanely well crafted and just fun to use. The weapons are great, the scenario is great, every area just feels different, and every encounter just has so much variety to it that Resident Evil 4 is probably the best action, maybe even the best survival horror game of 2023. Honestly, I feel like this game kind of got snubbed at the various awards and whatnot. If you play this game, it's insane. It's insane how well crafted everything is. And I think while I do believe other games deserve their awards, I think Resident Evil 4 just kind of got shafted in its praise because it is a remake, but it's only a remake in terms of the characters and the scenario and the location that we're in. Everything else just feels new, fresh, and just as something that we haven't really seen and at a level we haven't seen. Resident Evil 4 starts off with its foot all the way down on the gas pedal, and it doesn't stop until the end. And then we got the Separate Ways DLC later this year for only $9.99, and it was like a really beefy campaign, almost 8 hours my first playthrough, and then I beat it in like 2 hours after that. But it really shows how good Resident Evil 4 was, how good the formula is here, and how good Capcom was with the Resident Evil 4 remake. And I legit don't think this game got enough praise, and I think that might just be because it came out earlier this year, but seriously, Resident Evil 4 is a wild game, and play it. If you haven't played Resident Evil 4, just play it. It's insane. It's great. Sea of Stars is a game that I was following for quite a while, and I actually forgot about it after it kind of got delayed, or maybe it was just further out than I thought it was initially. And while I wasn't really into RPGs in the Super Nintendo era, especially with games like Chrono Trigger and whatnot being games I experienced only in the last few years, to be honest, I was really kind of taken aback by how much vibrant color, and there seemed to just be a lot of hope put into this game and this project. And even though I'm not someone who really extends their gaming mind into the indie scene these days, especially because lots of games are just pixel art and they claim to be inspired by so many other games, and then when you play them, they just kind of lean in on aspects that you don't really find fun. I was really worried about Sea of Stars when it was first plopped into my hands thanks to my PlayStation Extra subscription. But when I finally started playing it, I really didn't know if I would enjoy it. While the opening was actually a little too slow for my tastes, once I got into it, I really started to enjoy being in this world with these characters and just exploring a really fun and creative RPG world. I think Sea of Stars is just something that has to be experienced for yourself if you're not really familiar with it, or you're really nostalgic for your games or RPGs from the Super Nintendo or the early PlayStation era, like Breath of Fire, Chrono Trigger, and whatnot. It even features music composed by creators from those very prominent RPGs from back in the day, which is really interesting and a nice touch. But I did have some problems with Sea of Stars. I think the combat here is kind of a weak point. Having only a handful of abilities per character and so many of them having aspects of timing and whatnot is just, it kind of just grated on me in terms of combat. But man, did I enjoy just this world, these characters, and just how much creativity and whatnot was in this game. Also, I really liked the runtime of it. It kind of ended just at the right point and right before I was too tired of playing it. I think it was great. Also, I liked the story. I thought it was cute and interesting with some really interesting points and some moments, some interesting characters too. But Sea of Stars is one of those games that I enjoyed, but I didn't review it because I didn't think I enjoyed it that much. But it was a very interesting game, and I think the people who made this show that they have so much heart and dedication to this genre and to this era. But I would love to see the combat get changed up for a sequel if they want to do that. But I think Sea of Stars is one of those games that really hit with me more than I thought it would, but also there are some aspects that I didn't quite love. Anyway, Sea of Stars was great, and I really enjoyed it for the most part. Next up, we gotta talk about Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 was one of my personal favorite games of this year. Capcom really hasn't been missing lately, aside from Exoprimal. But Street Fighter 6 was a return to form that I was really banking a lot of my personal heart and emotion on. I played the betas of Street Fighter 6, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't know exactly how good this game was going to be until I got my hands on the full package. And lo and behold, I was very happy and excited and relieved that Street Fighter 6 turned out to be just as great as the betas made it seem. It is even better than that, actually. It has a full story mode or single player mode where you can just run around with create a character in like this big open RPG mode where your character gets stronger and learns new moves and whatnot. It acts also as like a pseudo tutorial for the game even. And then there is the main game that is just so well refined and so vibrant and fun to play. Every time I start up Street Fighter 6, I literally have matches where I just have a smile on my face at some point. Like, I don't think I have that often in fighting games. There are fighting games that I love to play because I like fighting games, but even as someone who's not very good at fighting games, admittedly, despite how much I play them, Street Fighter 6 just put a smile on my face, just jumping in, mashing buttons, and seeing cool stuff happen. And even when I took like 2 months away from playing this game, I jumped back in and I just started mashing buttons with Cammy, and once again, smile on my face. It can't be beat. So Street Fighter 6 has had a pretty interesting cycle so far. It's been a game that hasn't had any major patches aside from various bug fixes and whatnot that have cropped up. But Street Fighter 6 has been a super amazingly refined game just right out of the gate. And while other fighting games have various reactionary patches to balancing, Street Fighter 6 has taken the stance of whatever the balance is, that's what it's going to be for like a full year until the last DLC character comes out. And then we're going to go in for balance changes based on how the game is being played, how the community has been reacting. But at their main point was, we just want to let everything sift and settle on its own. And I really respect that. And it's made a game that's been really exciting to watch in the competitive scene, but also really fun to play it in the casual sense too. While I do lament the modern mode a little bit for online play, because getting one touched and then just full-blown auto-comboed into a level 3 super is kind of nuts, it's fun. Street Fighter 6 is super fun, it's super vibrant, and I love all of the characters and how they've been reimagined. And for the old characters, they've been reimagined, and the new characters who bring a lot of flavor and energy to the cast. Though I do think Chun-Li still is too awkward in this game. Still, Street Fighter 6 is one of my favorite games of this year. It's just been super fun to play every time I booted it up, and every time I just kind of sat down and just messed around with it. I just have so much fun, and I think that can't really be beat. Also, I just love the look of this game. It just looks super vibrant, super colorful. I love the ink or paint whenever you do like the big supers and the big drive impacts and whatnot. It's just a masterclass game. And it's going to be interesting to see how Street Fighter 6 evolves in 2024 when it gets its first major balance patch, whenever the rest of the characters come out, whenever the new characters get announced. And it hasn't been perfect. I think their DLC has been both lackluster, and then when it gave the thing that everybody wanted, new costumes for the main cast, they were just way too expensive, and that was disappointing. But Street Fighter 6 is a thumbs up for me. If you're any kind of interested in fighting games, Street Fighter 6 is an easy bet. But yeah, Street Fighter 6, It's great. I love it. And what might be one of my biggest surprises of the year is Super Mario Wonder. This is a really interesting game because I don't like Mario that much, honestly, and I don't like side-scrolling platformers especially. One of my earliest gaming memories is playing Super Mario 1 on the original Nintendo. And it was the day, I think maybe my family was moving from our home in the north up in Pennsylvania to the south in Georgia, and I think they just kind of sat me down in front of a game, just kind of get me out of the way. I think I was like 2 or 3 years old at the time, and honestly my earliest memory is playing Mario and falling in a pit, and I think that's why I don't like side-scrolling platformers or Mario in general. But I tried Super Mario Wonder on a whim at my friend's house, and I really loved it, and I was like, hey, you gotta let me borrow this. And I just kind of sat down and I just played through it, and I really enjoyed it. And I didn't review this on my channel, but I was really close to doing so. Super Mario Wonder is, at its core, another side-scrolling Mario game, but there's so much vibrancy and creativity in, honestly, every level. It just kind of turns your expectations of Mario and what it could be on its head, and in the best ways. I cannot emphasize enough how much creativity there is in every stage and every moment. And whenever you find the Wonder Flower, or Wonder Seed, I think is what they're called, the entire stage transforms in a way that you probably don't see coming if you don't have any spoilers. And it's just a really interesting game. And as someone, like I said, I don't like platformers, but I really enjoyed how these stages in this world progressed, and I even had to retry a lot of them a couple of times. Like, while I'm not a fan of like first party Nintendo games, I have been trying to jump into them more and more, and every time I do, I'm just surprised at how good they are. And I don't know if that's a recent thing or just in general, but every time I've tried a first party Nintendo game that I haven't played before or haven't tried before, I've been super blown away. Like, if you asked me 1 year ago if I liked Kirby, I would say no. But after I played Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, I'm a Kirby fan. I love Kirby. Kirby is my favorite Nintendo franchise now. And I'm going to play things like Metroid Dread. I've only played Metroid Prime, and I was like, oh, this is fine. I'm not really into first-person shooters, but I like Metroid Prime. So every time I jumped in, and Yoshi, oh my god, Yoshi. Every time I jumped into one of these Nintendo games, especially on the Switch or in the Switch era, I've just been charmed out of my mind. I've been blown away by the creativity that's in the games, and they're not only easy to play for someone who doesn't really like the challenge of super hard side-scrolling platformers, but they've just been really colorful and really good palette cleansers for the gaming landscape every time. Super Mario Wonder blew my mind, and I think it's super worth playing. And I think if you missed it, or if it just kind of got lost in the shuffle of 2023, you'll be missing out if you haven't played it. I loved it. I can't believe I loved it. I'm surprised I loved it. And I'm looking forward to more Nintendo games being like this. And it actually got me super hyped for the Peach game that's going to come out next year, early next year. If the Peach game has any level of creativity or fun like this did, then I'm going to be well happy with that game when it drops. Anyway, that was Super Mario Wonder. It's probably my biggest surprise of the year because I wasn't expecting to play it or like it, but you know what? I did. I really enjoyed it. And then I'm kind of seeing why there's so many Nintendo fans out there, even as someone who's late to the game and coming into the Nintendo fandom at 30 years old, past 30. It's pretty cool. So I liked Super Mario Wonder, and it gets a thumbs up from me. And next, we're gonna have Star Ocean 2, or Star Ocean Second Story R, is what it's technically called. This is a remake of Star Ocean 2, and actually the last game I reviewed in 2023. And it's a bit of a surprising one to add it onto the list so late, but this is a game that I didn't think I would enjoy as much as I did, because Star Ocean has always been a series I played but never really like had much effect on me. And then I played Star Ocean Second Story are, and it kind of put everything in perspective about what makes Star Ocean such a fun and interesting series. And Star Ocean 2 is the original game that I started with this franchise, just like a lot of people who are into RPGs. And this game reminded me that, one, the story in Star Ocean isn't that great, but two, the world, characters, and gameplay of Star Ocean 2 is just really, really fun. And especially in this remake, they made everything faster, more bombastic, and a little more there's just more flow to the game. And I do agree. I think Star Ocean 2 specifically is one of those classic games that you just kind of have to try out if you're curious, or if you missed it back in the day. I think Star Ocean Second Story R is the definitive way to play this game now. It's a really fun and interesting adventure, and it really came to life for me in the second half of the game, where you kind of see like the cityscapes, and I was like, oh, well, this is a pretty cool looking game. Sadly, like I said, the story doesn't really keep up with that interesting setting that the game has, but the various gameplay challenges and the insane amount of unlockable and optional abilities for your characters, and things like crafting and whatnot that can completely break the game if you do it correctly, is just so mind-boggling and so much fun. I think Star Ocean Second Story are what? I think this game is super good, and I think it's something that RPG fans definitely have to check out if they have the time. And it's one I didn't actually think I would check out, but I played the demo and I was just like, okay, I think this is something I want to play. So yeah, I recommend this game. It is not one of my most recommended games of the year, but I definitely recommend this game. It is very good and very interesting to play. But yeah, that is going to do it for my games of 2023. Like I said, I tried to keep this list, or I definitely only kept this list into the games that I played in 2023, not the games I wanted to play in 2023. There's my backlog expanded quite a bit in this year, or this past year, because now it's 2024 technically. But there are plenty of games that will keep me busy, and I'm probably going to pump the brakes on new games, but I am going to get Grand Blue Fantasy Relink because I'm super curious about the game, because it's been in development for a super long time. But that is going to do it for this video. I am going to try to make time for Baldur's Gate 3, which I just started, for Advance Wars 1 and 2, which I wanted to play, but I skipped because that game just took way too long to come out, and when it did, there was other stuff out. Like, I think it came out around the time as Resident Evil 4, maybe. The Dead Space remake, oh my god, one of my favorite games of all time, Dead Space. I didn't get to it. Pikmin 4, I saw someone else playing it, and I've seen my friends bought it, like, in front of me. Both of my friends bought it in front of me, and I was just like, I want to play Pikmin, but I've never played Pikmin before. I tried Pikmin 1, I was like, this is fine. But Pikmin 4 looked really charming, and it seems like a really good game, so I'm going to jump into that eventually. Diablo 4, another game that I wanted to play, but Diablo 4 being always online, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to wait a month and see what that game is like and see what people are saying about it. And then I was like, oh yeah, we have a battle pass too. And I was like, I'm going to wait 3 months and see what people are saying about it. And then their viewers saying like, yeah, it's not very great in the hardcore end game crowd. And I was like, I'm going to wait 4 months. And then season 2 happened. People saying, oh, yeah, it's way better now. And then they had a big sale, and I was like, I'm going to buy Baldur's Gate instead. So we'll get to Diablo eventually, I guess. Maybe when their expansion comes out, or maybe when it hits like $19.99, I might buy it or something. Or maybe like, I guess that would be like 3,000 yen here. Another game I wanted to play, Wild Hearts. I was very curious about Wild Hearts, but as a Monster Hunter fan, a lot of people are just like, yeah, we're on Monster Hunter World now. Come join us, bro. So I was like, I'm going to download Monster Hunter World. So that's another reason why my backlog is so bad. Because I'm going to start playing Monster Hunter World again. Forspoken, Square Enix is not very well marketed, not very well crafted as a default game, but that is apparently very good if you tweak the controls. And apparently got a lot of patches, and a lot of people say like, yeah, this game's actually pretty solid if you like really jump into it and just kind of like let it wash over you. So I'm like, okay. Forspoken is on the list for eventual, but I think Forspoken flopped hard, so I don't think we'll see a sequel for it or anything. And then there's Octopath Traveler 2. That is one of my favorite. Octopath Traveler 1 was one of my favorite games, and I'm really surprised I didn't jump on Octopath Traveler 2 immediately. I think I was just very busy when that game came out, and it was just like, I have no time for this at the moment, so we're gonna pump the brakes on Octopath Traveler 2, and it just kind of kept slipping my mind, and now it's 2024, so I'm gonna jump into this one eventually. I just finished Star Ocean 2. There's a couple of other RPGs I want to get to first. I want to beat Dragon Quest 11, and there's a couple of other games I want to beat before I jump into another RPG. But man, that game is calling my name, I tell you. And there's a couple of other games from 2023 and 2022 that I just didn't get to, and that's how it goes sometimes, right guys? Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. This was really unplanned, and I just kind of was at the gym, and you know, when you're at the gym and you kind of zone out and you just start thinking about stuff you want to do today. And I was like, I should do a 2023 games video, even though I didn't play as much as other content creators, and because, you know, I have to buy my own games and I don't have money for that kind of stuff because my channel is only very small. We only have 300 subs, so please like and subscribe and tell people about this channel and get them to like, sub, and subscribe too. But anyway, like I said, this was a very off-the-cuff video, so thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you're playing or what you played in 2023. What didn't you get to and that you're gonna have to make room for it in 2024? Oh my god, Relink and Final Fantasy Rebirth. Oh my god, 2024 is going to be rough. Anyway, hopefully we'll get to our backlogs in 2024. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Stay safe out there. I've been Valkerion, and I hope to see you again next time.